Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. We're looking back on what Kaden Pressy had to say in regard to what went down a few days ago in the live chat of my video premiere when it came to the latest shocking breaking news of the Kathy Bingham private investigator call being leaked, and even Kaden Pressy's voice as well, talking about the Netflix documentary Wearing a Wire, going behind the scenes to try and get the likes of Jack Newton, Mikey Lair, and maybe some others to reveal who killed Noah Presgrove. All kinds of shocking stuff like that. If you haven't seen the details about that, for the full analysis, you'll be able to find the video top right corner where the I symbol is, along with the full playlist covering the Noah Presgrove case. Today, we're reflecting back on what Kaden Pressy had to say, his final words before leaving this supposed channel for good and never returning back. Where does he go? Who knows? Working behind the scenes in some way, some capacity? Very likely. Active on Facebook? Not from the looks of it, unless things are going on privately in little groups and covens. Time may tell eventually, but in the moment, this is a good exercise to highlight some people's questions, see how Kaden reacted to them and what Kaden had to say in regard to other people. And does it really show a balance of communication or a dysfunctional mess? You'll find out as long as you stick around to watch. Big shout out to those that have watched my previous videos, long format ones, but that were needed, all done in one flow. Welcome to whoever is watching tonight in the live premiere. Share your thoughts, live reactions in the chat box located on the right side of the screen there. And if you've got any additional comments, thoughts, opinions, anything whatsoever, be sure to drop a comment below under the video. It'll help with spreading that awareness, and then we'll see where things go from there. If you want to support the channel, below, pinned message in the comment section by me, there will be a PayPal link. Big shout out to those that have supported my channel in recent time. You know who you are. That's all appreciated. With that being said, the way we're going to kick things off and focus in on are screenshots which I've taken from the live chat a few days ago. I'll read them out to you for context and begin. Here we go with the first one. Take in mind, one of the main focused comments here is by George Choden at the bottom, in which Kaden Pressy does respond to on the next slide. I just couldn't fit it all on. But in between, let's acknowledge what other people had said, whether they be answered or not by Kaden. Andrea says to Kaden, "Are you scared for your life, truly?" That's in regard to, of course, with Andrea hearing about Kaden at the end of his call or wherever it came from. Kaden saying, well, it is what it is, this being leaked and the whole world's going to know now and what I was going to do and be wired up to spy on my former friends and to get the truth and confessions all being revealed public. Well, I guess I'm just going to get murdered or killed now. And Kaden worded it so casually, like he's accepted his fate, that he's going to die and someone's going to kill him. Obviously, it's not good. Some can say it's quite upsetting and others could say it's quite chilling. Could be the final word before something does happen. But Andrea is questioning, are you truly scared for your life with what you've said? Kaden doesn't sound scared himself in his tone of voice, but you never know what goes on within. But would anyone in the community contest and say, is Kaden truly in danger? When Kaden says someone will kill him, is that exactly what's going to happen? Or is it exaggerated? Exaggerated in a manipulative way, or just because it's heat of the moment, not quite thinking clearly, slip of the tongue in some way. Then we got Beauty Garumo, shout out to them. As a PI, I think she is very unprofessional and not cut out to be on a case like this, especially a local case where she can be biased and have her own vendettas. Beauty is referring to Kathy Bingham. A local? Yeah, conflict of interest. That ticks one box. The other box you could argue is Kathy is related in some way to Brylan Sweat, who's a party goer. So there could be a level of leniency there. Maybe it's nice to have a familiar face involved in a case, but depending what side they're on or what their thoughts are like and outlooks of certain people, past and present, it could impact certain judgment. You never know. Just like when you get hospitals, doctors, nurses who may not be, and more so surgeons, may not be allowed or advised to operate on a family member that's come on in because of a conflict of interest. The emotional connection, the emotional strain and stress, it could impact your performance. because of who you're doing it on, and the pressure might get to you. Sometimes it works in some situations and it might be allowed, but other times not so much. So it's only the same with a private investigator. It's all very serious. Sadie says to Kaden, did your mom Alicia make a report on your AirTag? Now, I believe Michael Fazkaz chipped in with a comment and said that there is proof or evidence to suggest that a report was made. And that's coming from Michael Fazkaz, who I guess may be in contact with Alicia or someone to be able to know about it. But what I will say is it's just words at the moment in time, not seeing any hard evidence. Got to highlight that. Sadie, Kaden just like to get rumours cleared up. Fair enough. Tim Daniel to Kaden. Colton and Travis Monson weren't even there Sunday night at the party. How are you going to accuse them of murder when they weren't there? Now, Kaden was the one, and I believe one of the originals, in one of his own interviews, I think probably the police one, and Kaden said Sunday night or going into Monday morning, Kaden was resting and he was kind of like woken or disturbed and saw Travis Monson, Colton Newton and a skinny guy returning back to the party to grab or steal some alcohol. That's what Kaden said. Now, besides Kaden and his discrepancies with times from 5:15 or 6 in the morning, that type of stuff, or when Renee actually arrived and when they actually left, besides the numbers, we thought that the events were somewhat consistent. But if it is true that Colton and Travis weren't even at the party Sunday night, including Sunday morning too, Sunday overall, why on earth would Kaden mention names of partygoers that weren't even there on the day? How could Kaden get mixed up with that? Unless Kaden got mixed up with Saturday night, because Travis was supposedly there Saturday night, as there's photos of him. As for Colton, well, Colton has said he was there Saturday. So is there a possibility that when Kaden said, oh, on Sunday night, I saw Colton Travis return back, Kaden was actually referring to Saturday night going into past midnight, Sunday early morning? Could Kaden have got the days mixed up? But it's still true that these guys did return back to the party later on at night, but it wasn't Sunday, it was a day before, or early hours of Sunday morning. Does anyone agree with that? Because it's just weird, like, how does Kaden Pressy benefit or gain from dragging in other names of people if he knew they weren't there? And then we got George Choden says to Kaden, does your girlfriend Kaden know about the AirTags, and is she demanding to know if your mom's done one on her too? I mean, in some way I could understand that. I don't know the situation or relationships with Kaden Pressy because that's personal background stuff. I know some people made references on Reddit saying there was a video footage of Alicia, supposedly footage, pinning Kaden's girlfriend or ex-girlfriend down on the ground and wouldn't let go of her. I don't know what on earth that's all about. I'm guessing this girlfriend must be a different one, a new one with Kaden. To be inquiring about, has she asked your mom whether they've been tracked or not too? I can understand that reasoning why maybe a girlfriend may do that if they knew about Kaden being tracked by Kaden's mom, because maybe that girlfriend doesn't want to be suffocated by Alicia or watched and monitored anything and everything that she does. Out of respect for privacy, out of respect for personal space, it all makes sense. Is George in the right position to be asking those questions? Well, at least in my position, I probably wouldn't ask those type of questions because I just sense that it would probably lead to backfire and a level of tenseness. But, we all do things and ask different questions, and it might help along the way. But it's important to acknowledge what Andrea has asked Kaden. Kaden did not respond. Kaden ignored Andrea's comment. Kaden ignored Sadie Ray's comment. Kaden ignored Tim Daniels' question. And why? Well, because just under it, on the rest of the slides going on, the only response Kaden refers to is George Choden. So people asked genuine questions. Andrea asked a genuine question. Kaden didn't answer. Tim Daniel asked a key question. And if they're not answered, then where are you supposed to go? And does Kaden expect people to just be satisfied with silence? I know Kaden may not owe other people everything, and there might be some things that have to be kept private. I get all that. If only Kaden Pressy, if he did see the questions, replied with yes or no, or I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I don't feel comfortable answering that public. Just a little bit of dialogue like that would go a long way. Besides that, we've got Twilight. The simple fact, stop with the lies and the twisting of sheet. We've got Beauty Gurumo. Truth for Justice says, I find it hard to believe Netflix would wire someone up during an open investigation. Sounds a bit risky. Could fire back on them. I get it. Brooke Carter says, I spoke on the phone with her. Who's her? And I was shocked at the amount of things she didn't know and didn't know certain names. And for record, she has not interviewed the girls, Ellie told the girls. So, Brooke, are you referring to you were on the phone with her as in Kathy Bingham, maybe? But she doesn't know about this or that or certain names. Wouldn't surprise me, only because of the reaction from Kathy Bingham in that leaked call where she was like, wow, as in, never heard that before, never heard this before, yet we have before Kathy, and she's the private investigator. Interesting. Kaden's response to George's question here about Kaden's girlfriend, Kaden says, leave my girlfriend out of this, it has nothing to do with her. And that's true what Kaden says. Kaden's girlfriend is not tied to the case and should not be dragged into the case. That is just collateral damage. But Kaden's interpreting it incorrectly. Because what George is getting at is not to do with the case, but more so to do with maybe Alicia's protectiveness over Kaden out of care and love. Does that carry on over to if Kaden is with someone in a relationship? And that someone, the girlfriend to Kaden, would they be comfortable with Alicia tracking and tracing her on top of Kaden? Now, is it a question that's relevant and needs to be asked directly in the moment in the case? Some people could argue and say, no, it's not needed whatsoever. Other people could argue and say, all it's doing is just trying to drag Kaden and other people through the mud in unnecessary ways. But, I kind of understand what George is getting at. I personally probably wouldn't have asked the question just because I feel like it might have just caused, I don't know, maybe a breakdown in communication, but it depends where you're at with different people and how you talk to them. Andrea says, I got to learn to record phone calls ASAP. I think you might be able to, I don't know if it works all the time, maybe there's a privacy restriction, but I think you can download screen recorders and then record it and then do a call possibly. But you got to be careful because there's a disclaimer. I don't know where with certain laws or rules, you got to be careful because if you record something you might not be allowed to or you're not supposed to, and if you get caught out, you could get in trouble. As a disclaimer, so be careful. Brooke Carter, L.E. told the girls not to speak to her. I'm guessing Kathy Bingham. The girls, as in who? All of the girls? Stephanie Milan, Jasmine Milan, Carter Combs, Logan Avery, people like that. And why just the girls specifically? What about Jack Newton? I mean, I guess Kathy Bingham at one point on Partisan True Crime said, well, I've interviewed 2 people, and I believe 2 people are truly innocent, but no names mentioned at the time. But then there's 2 other people that I need to look into as people of interest. That's the last thing I remember. But, maybe 6 people in total that she interviewed in the past, and it's like, well, there's 30 to 40 party goers supposedly, so how many are really going to be interviewed? How long does it take? I think I remember questioning about that at the time. Donna Bond, people are getting paid, in response to Tim's point. Tim Daniel, Kaden, just saying your mom likes to track everyone. Truth for Justice, a lot of people have nothing to do with the case but are dragged in. And in some way or another, that could tie in with Justin Roy's daughter when it came to the whole Snapchat thing with Jasmine Milan. But Justin Roy was the same said individual to say there's only one victim in this case, and that's Noah. So completely dismissing what one's daughter was dragged through. That's unusual. Brooke Carter, the Kaden, leave everyone else alone that have nothing to do with this. How about that? Now, has Kaden been going at everyone and calling out everyone? Not as much as people in the community. Just my opinion. There might be other things Kaden has said which I've not remembered or come across. Tree for Justice. Why would Netflix trust people proven to be less than credible? Twilight says to Kaden or someone, why lie about the calls, etc. We got Brooke, trust me, I spoke in length with Derek. I think Derek's the one associated, maybe a producer, associated with Netflix, because Kaden Pressy said in his call or whatever it was that it was Derek to blame for revealing to Kathy Bingham what Kaden was willing to do by wearing a wire. That's how it all started to spread. Brooke, he doesn't believe the lies. Sadie, oh Brooke, that's very possible that she did that, maybe to throw Kaden Pressy under the bus. True for Justice. Kathy Bingham is saying what she thinks from the two people she interviewed. Twilight, why lie about the call to JJ? What's wrong with meeting his best friend at a lake to talk? Lying about the call. So yeah, Twilight's referring to specifically Alicia there. Kaden Pressy says, yeah, and this is the thing. Important questions by Twilight. Why lie about who you actually called? Not to Kaden, but to Caden's mom, Alicia. And some other points mentioned in between. And Caden's response to all of that is just by saying, absolutely none of y'all would say the shit y'all are saying on here to my face. Y'all hide behind y'all phones. Y'all don't want justice. Y'all want drama. Y'all do is stir the pot with nonsense. I think that's the most time I've said y'alls back to back, and I think I said it correctly as well. Anyway, besides that, saying what to Caden's face in terms of the insults, the threats, or bad language wording, things like that, maybe, but it could go vice versa amongst people within the case in general. Y'all are saying on here to my face, hiding behind phones, not doing it face to face. Well, you know, some people are from countries far, far away and whatnot. I think Caden's mostly referring to the people in the chat here. But for Kaden Pressy to say to some of my viewers that y'all don't want justice, y'all want drama and stir the pot. I mean, there are viewers on my channel asking genuine questions that truly want answers to clear things up. And if they don't get it, they might become a bit confused. They might see it or interpret it as a level of suspicion. You just react with what you've got or what you haven't. And if there's a level of silence as well, speaks volume too. I could argue and say that there's people from other groups, more so on Facebook, that are stirring stuff. What about the obsessions and attacks aimed towards me and making false videos about me, threatening post, community post and beyond? It seems like people are completely blind to that. Actually, more so it seems like as long as you team Kaden Pressy or as long as you team Army Page, you can go above and beyond and do everything possible to cause as much harassment and damage and trouble and nasty behaviour and going against multiple YouTube terms of services, breaking guidelines. You can get away with it all, be patted on the back and congratulated by the people around you as long as you think besides them and are in line with their thoughts, and you can do anything you want. Really? So what level of extremity are we going to go to? What, the next time there is a paedophile present, but as long as that individual and fiddler ends up being on side with Kaden Pressy or on Justin Roy's side, then they'll be supported, held up in the air and praised for what they do, and on the sideline touching people. You know, it's a prediction, it's a suggestion. That's how it seems to be going. Stirring the pot and drama with the nonsense. Well, I think what doesn't help is stirring the pot in not actually answering key questions at times when it's needed most. And you expect people to just be completely happy and normal with that and just go along with it, head in the cloud. It's unfortunate. See, there's genuine questions, and Kaden's more so focused on calling people out and saying y'all a lot. It doesn't help. This doesn't help either. Tim Daniel, Kaden, why lie about being at the late with JJ? Yeah, we've seen that one. Twilight, I've seen your... Oh, yeah. Noah deserves the truth. Don't know who that is. Kaden, why did you not tell the police about who you think killed Noah during your interview? Yeah, it's a fair point. Yeah, because I think, if I'm correct in saying, when we saw those screenshot convos by Alicia was quoting that Kaden had told her either on the day or close to the day of Noah's death, maybe on the way back home, as in who he thinks it could be. And that was in 2023. The police interview what we listened to in 2024, Kaden didn't mention who he thinks or mention those same names. Not in the same sentence as who could be responsible, just that he saw them return back to the house, like Travis and Colton, so that's interesting. Brenda, to Twilight, there's nothing wrong with turning to a lifelong friend under those circumstances. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with turning to a friend under the circumstances, but in regard to Alicia lying about calling JJ, pretending to call somebody else, why would you need to lie? There's no reason. It's a bit weird. Twilight says, Kaden Pressy, I've seen your conversations with people early on. I know what you've said. Now, what's that? Sounds like things that have never been revealed publicly before, maybe. Could it be shocking? Could it turn things upside down? What did Kaden Pressy say in earlier conversations, exactly? Truth or justice? Screenshots? He said, we think it was Carter? What? Rebecca says, how sad. Donna Bond, wow, the nerve. As in who? Kaden Pressy does respond back to Twilight and says, congratulations, tell the whole world then. Sounds a bit sarcastic, but it also sounds like Kaden Pressy has nothing to hide. Now, what does Twilight have in regard to seeing certain conversations? Are the screenshots of it? Does it highlight Kaden in a positive light, a negative light? Kaden doesn't seem too phased by it regardless. Tim Daniel, to Twilight, sounds like someone's story has changed over time. Truth or Justice says to Kaden, why did your mom, Alicia, say she talked to you all the way home whilst you were crying and scared of Colton? I don't remember the mention of being scared of Colton, just feeling that maybe Colton and Travis have something to do with the outcome with Noah at least. Yeah, why would Alicia say all that? Should be... Well, I mean, to some extent, Alicia has the right to be talking about that if she witnessed it, as in on a call with Kaden and Kaden's crying. So Alicia's in a position to talk about an event like that, if in communication with Kaden at the time. But for Kaden not to acknowledge it ever, not even in the police interview 2024, why is that? Is it because it just never happened? And if it never happened, fine, fair enough. But why would Alicia be making it up then? It just doesn't help Kaden at the end of the day. Twilight says to Kaden, would you like me to reveal those conversations public? No deserves better. No deserves the truth. Says Kaden, and this has nothing to do with the Colton and Travis as they were not there, but you just throw their name around. But why would Kaden have the motivation to throw certain people's names about who weren't even at the party? How does Kaden gain from it? Is it a form of misdirection to divert attention elsewhere? And honestly, if it was by Kaden did say it early on as well, and it was mentioned in a police interview, so it wasn't even meant to be public, so there was no direct attempt for Kaden to cause misdirection publicly when it was more so intended just for the police only to listen to, and then we heard it later when it was leaked. Kaden's response to Twilight saying, should I do that? Kaden says, go for it. I've stated the same thing every time I've had a conversation with anyone. So Kaden Pressy has said the same thing every single time with every single person he's spoken to. That is categorically, outright, a complete lie. And I know that sounds really bad of me to say, but I say it with a level of confidence and certainty based on language and wording, comparing and contrasting with Kaden Pressy's interview with police of 2024, June, and Partners in True Crime of July 2024. And a little bit to do with the interview, I guess, part 2 by Partners in True Crime. So that's what I'm basing my stuff on, and I've seen inconsistencies. Maybe Kaden could be consistent in what he's saying, but if he changes his words about or sentence structuring, there's like this little slip of words as well, it might sound like a completely different event or a completely different situation when he's referring to the same thing. But, you know, it's how you present yourself. And if you present yourself in an abstract way, misunderstandings can come about. So it's important to use correct language. The reality is, and as a fact, Kaden Pressy has gone from at one point saying this happened and that happened and I saw this and I saw that and I witnessed this, to later in the live chats on the videos by saying, well, actually, I didn't actually see it. I only heard it with my ears. And as for the lake trip, yeah, it was the day after Noah's death. Then later in the same chat, he says, well, actually, no, I can't remember what day it actually happened on. Right, so you do know and you don't know. One or the other. Same with Kaden Pressy at the party. Kaden witnessing Noah reaching out to the partygoers for a ride back home. And then later on, post Partners in True Crime, when talking about it there, on my channel, my video live premiere, Kaden Pressy referred to it again, but said, well, actually, I didn't see Noah reaching out to people. I just heard it. I didn't see the faces. So if Kaden was more consistent with his language and wording and how he describes it, it would be clearer and easier to know and follow. But Kaden's gone from being confident, stating this and that, to then being uncertain later. And he may have been uncertain to begin with, but he didn't portray himself that way. He portrayed himself in a confident way, knowing what he's talking about and what he's seen and saw and heard. And then later, well, actually, no, it's not quite like that. So it's kind of led people on. And that's just observations, true observations, which are documented on my channel with time. So if anyone wants to counter it, do your research, go back to my channel, you will find it. Simple as. So Andrea says, yeah, it's okay to accuse Colton and Travis now. Twilight, why lie about when contacting the LE? Oh yeah, I think that might have been another side thing. Was it like October 4th or something? I didn't quite follow that part because I was looking at other things. Mark says, Kaden Pressy, I don't think you need to defend yourself here, but one can't be a doormat either. Understood. Hope your leg is healing. I think it would have healed by now, or is it a different injury? Brooke says, laughing my ass off. Twilight, I beg to differ, Kaden. Beauty, y'all, is a big word. I would say anything to anyone, no fear my heart love. I have nothing bad to say to you or about you. I believe your mom has tainted your image and words. That's how it can come across. But Kaden's own language and wording and making mistakes along the way, as innocent as it may be, he's not done himself any favours there. So Beauty Gurumo, if you used to look back on live chats and videos as like examples that I've given, Kaden Pressy went from strength to weakness, as in Partners in True Crime, talking about what he witnessed, and then later talking about it in the live chats. He went from stating it with confidence, he saw it all, he heard it all, he took it all in, to then, well, actually, I don't remember what day it happened. Well, actually, I don't remember. Well, actually, I didn't really hear or I didn't actually see it with my own eyes. It's a bit of a letdown, you know? If you present yourself from the beginning, you're unsure, you're uncertain, you don't know. You might be deemed as not that helpful in the case, but at least you're being honest, and it saves people time in a way. Besides that, True for Justice says, Kaden, you and your mom are beyond unreliable. You have said so many discrepancies. There have been a handful of discrepancies, and would I say many, many, many? I don't know, because I can't remember every single one, but at least some of the discrepancies are very important, at least. But there might be a bit of a crossover with Alicia's discrepancies compared to what Kaden supposedly said, like a double team, but dysfunctional. Noah deserves truth. Kaden, that is a lie. Nothing about Colton or Travis was in your police interview, and now all of a sudden here comes their names. Whoa. Hold on. I do believe it was the police interview, and if it wasn't, it would have been one of the partners in true crime interviews. I can say that with absolute confidence and certainty. Noah deserves the truth. Because out of one of the two interviews, and it was definitely from one of the two interviews, I know that for absolute confidence and certainty, because it was actually at the time of when I did my Google Map project comparing the police one to the parts in true crime interview, and the details given in one, extra details in the other, not mentioned. And Kaden Pressy in one of the interviews did talk about Colton and Travis returning back to the party on a Sunday night, and I think it probably was the police interview. So there is truth in that. The main question is, why was it not mentioned in the parts in true crime interview? Why was it not elaborated? Why no time given when normally Kaden seems to know the time of different events? If Kaden was to be woken up at 2:42 looking at his phone, he sees the time. Kaden to be woken up or disturbed in the evening of Sunday to see some guys returning back, did you look at the clock? But we never got that follow-up, which is unfortunate. Sadie Ray, Kaden, I think we just want to know what is the truth. Did your mom turn it into the LE about the AirTag? Is that too hard to answer? And does Kaden answer it? No. So even when some people are being patient and respectful, Kaden still fails to respond back. At the same time, Kaden doesn't have to respond back to anyone, of course, but if Kaden expects things to get better or to ease off, a little bit of give and take is required. Truth or Justice asked, Kaden, how's the phone analysis going? And that's ignored as well from the looks of it. No deserves truth. To Twilight, maybe Kaden has some amnesia. Sadie, I mean, you're one justice for Noah, right, Kaden? So why not help out? I get that, because Kaden was all about justice and helping and doing what he can to help people and about the case and so on. Kaden, there in the early days with Anthony Linares' first-time call, was the one to say to Anthony that, you know what, I'll tell people that need to know, as in authorities, but I won't be telling people that want to know, as in general public. But ever since, Kaden has been more vocal with general public. So you can't have it both ways there with that mindset. Going against one's words in between. Kaden's response to Sour Wood Honey, wherever that person's name is, because I can't see it on screen, says, put them in the newsletter. What newsletter? Twilight, I don't want any of these party people to be any of them who did this to Noah, fair enough. Beauty, and the people you guys trusted in tainted the hell out of you and your character. That's all I have to say. No shade, no tea, I hope the best for you. The people you guys trusted in. What? Members of the general public from the army page, is that what you mean, or in the case? Donna to Twilight, always remember, think before you act. Truth Justice says, you don't see Jack on chat being a smart ass, not even answering questions. And you can also say that Jack hasn't been helpful within the chats here because he's not been active, nowhere to be seen. But at the same time, Jack keeping to himself, not causing any trouble since in that regard, and maybe laying a bit low and not being attacked as much, that if Kaden Pressy may have followed the same strategy, he wouldn't be attacked as much, maybe. But, personal preference for each person. Some want to engage in the chats and other people may not. No deserves truth. Newsletter. Now, you want people to write about you. Do you have a mental illness? So, yeah, okay, there might be some people in the community that say certain responses to Kaden are a bit unnecessary or too insulting. Everyone's got their own vocabulary. I said I wouldn't be saying certain words or lines because I just know it wouldn't do me much good. It can fire back on myself. And I'll get into that towards probably the end of my video coming up. Tim Daniel, remember when you told me, Kaden, you were a man of your word. You got that proof. You were on the road at 5:21, still waiting for it. That's just in regard to the whole, oh yeah, I'm going to download or get Apple data to hand it over to me, and then I'm going to reveal it public, and then everybody can see it. And after that, Kaden did a disappearance act, and ever since, nothing. And that's the fact that Kaden made that promise. That's what he was going to do, and he has not followed through with it. That is not an attack on Kaden, it's just an observation, and it's a fact that words were stated, but action was not followed through. It's unfortunate. It is where it is. Brooke to Mark. Okay. They spoke out long before Kaden Pressy ever said a word. Sadie. Maybe Kathy Bingham sent it to Alicia Pressy and she leaked it. Oh, like the police thing. Okay, the act of sharing stuff. Because we're all not okay. Andrea, Mark, they've all had their time, but they also aren't in chats. Noah, the truth, he is only around for attention. Noah is not important to him. Money and fame are, and that is showing for sure. So they're calling out Kaden for that. Andrea, he's an adult here out of his own free will. He can be taught to like everybody else. Twilight, come on, let's get the truth out. Kaden Pressy's response, I'm in chats because I have nothing to hide. Why aren't the police pulling me in talking to me? Why has no official tried to talk to me in a year? Ever since. So early days, Kaden following up with police, trying to get communication going, get the ball rolling to help and assist. And ever since, no more follow-ups. Of course, that is unfortunate, yes. Has Kaden tried pushing any more for interviews, even though he shouldn't really have to, if it would help him get things out of the way? AJ Williams says, to Kaden, most everyone on here would say it to your face and your mom's face, and the only ones stirring the pot with BS and nonsense is you and your controlling mother. In terms of stirring the pot within the case, maybe, in terms of just stirring unnecessary trouble and things like that, it's actually more so that third group of people, you know, the ones that I highlighted previously when I did my predictions and I got it all absolutely right before it happened. Yeah, we need to highlight that area as well. Tim Daniel, Kaden, because you were asleep, you are not a witness to anything. In regard to the follow-up and lead up to Noah's death, in a way, yeah. Your mum, however, was on the road at 3:15, supposedly. Maybe they should talk to her. But what we do need to acknowledge is Kaden likely asleep during the moments of when Noah walked off and most likely onwards, the death part. For Alicia to be on the road at 3:15, and as long as it's backed up as a fact that Noah walked away at 3:30, then it would mean that when Alicia was down at the highway at 3:15, she wouldn't have seen anything or seen Noah whatsoever because Noah was still at the party at 3:15, based off that. So it wouldn't mean much. It wouldn't make Alicia a witness in that regard. If Alicia was at the highway at 3:30 onwards, well then definitely yes. But if you're there earlier at the highway and Noah's still at the party, you're not going to see anything because you're still too early before the actual death. And as well, it depends how far down the highway Alicia was at some point. How far and how close were they to the party and to the then to be spot where Noah's to be found dead. Beauty? Well, the more time goes on with so many stories and lies and the 30,000 people on Facebook creating chaos and more stories and rumours, I'm sure there's so much to go through daily. Truth of just is, so sad Noah's actual best friend is treated the way he is whilst Kaden plays his games. Best friend being Jack Newton being treated the way he is. Okay. Andrea to Kaden, now Ellie wants to talk to you because it's not needed, you were asleep. That's one way of looking at it. True that, Beauty. I mean, based off what Andrea says there, I guess that also applies to what? Brylan, Sweat, Mikey, Isaac, maybe? Beauty, or I'm sure more partygoers would have been asked to come in They're slammed because of the Facebook groups. I couldn't imagine so much hindering Ellie. Kaden to Truth, you have no right to say that. Oh, Truth adjusters. It's so sad Noah's actual best friend is treated so badly whilst Kaden is playing his games, and Kaden says you have no right to say that. As in, no right to say that the claim of Kaden playing games, or no right in to say Jack's being treated bad, or both lines, who knows. Sadie, Truth, yeah, it's pretty sickening that he wants to come on here, I guess that is in reference to Kaden, and act like he's not hiding anything, and yet he's hiding everything along with his mom, apparently. The Truth says, Mark, no one else is out putting out statements and talking about wearing a wire. They talked to Ellie and are waiting for them to solve this, whilst Kaden is, and it doesn't show it on here because I cut it off because I couldn't fit it all on screen, but Noah Deserves the Truth called Kaden an attention whore, and you can find that in the live chat as well. Sadie, Truth, yeah, it's pretty sick. Yeah, we've seen that. Oh yeah, you get the full bit there. I fitted it on. Tammy Burnham says, Kaden, thank you for standing up for Noah. Brooke Carter, Truth, yes, poor Jack Newton. Breaks my heart for him. He was Noah's person. He was Noah's true friend. Sadie, I don't feel like he's standing up for Noah. I feel like he's standing behind Noah. Kaden Pressy to Tammy, there is no need to say thank you. It's called doing the right thing. The Truth says, Kaden, all you do is play games. I'm wondering if you know how to tell the truth. We got Sherry, welcome Sherry, to Kaden Pressy. Because, son, you offer nothing to the case. Ellie isn't going to waste their time with someone who only offers feelings. Tammy, thumbs up. Beauty, Mark, I totally get that. I feel where you're coming from. Donna Bond, sick to the stomach. What the F? I don't know what Donna's sick of. Maybe too many waffles. Sadie, Kaden Pressy, doesn't Jack your best friend? Why would you not defend him when you know the truth? Brooke Carter, Tim, where's the man of the words? Did you ever get the phone records? Kaden Pressy, y'all have so much shit to talk. Why don't y'all ever talk it to me? And instead of talking shit online, I'm sure most of y'all know my phone number. I will meet up and you can talk all the shit you want. Tim Daniel, don't forget they chewed out the girls on the road for 15 minutes. They lie about what time they picked up Georgia. 3:15 to 3:30 is exactly the time Noah walks off. In between that, I mean, it's only ever been worded as 3:30. That's when Noah walked off. So really, if anything happened before 3:30, such as on the highway, Noah's not going to be there. Unless there's evidence, hard evidence to say it was before 3:30, the timing of when Noah walked away. It's all been based off words. Does anyone have actual hard evidence of the time of when Noah actually walked away besides just listening to people's words? Besides that, AJ says, exactly, Brooke, where are those phone records he promised? That's for Kaden. Kaden says, want to talk? I doubt anyone would be willing to because y'all are trolls, y'all don't want the truth, and Claire. So it sounds like out of Justin Roy's dictionary. Tim Daniel, Brooke, the man apparently is not a man of his word, promised me phone data link and never happened. We're getting towards the end, I think. Tim Daniel, Brooke, yeah. Rebecca says, I messaged you, Kaden, came with a thumbs up. Twilight, Kaden, even when people have asked you simple questions trying to see, you sit there and talk so much shit, or in other ways, just doesn't respond back to them, which is unfortunate. Kaden, we all want the truth, and there's a lot of things that you can clear up, but you won't. It's unfortunate. Kaden Pressy, there's nothing to clear up. What I said is what I said, and it's nothing but the truth. But we've clearly highlighted discrepancies. Kaden Pressy, just as an example, you, Kaden, in the Partisan True Crime interview stated you woke up at 2:42, you went back to sleep at 3 in the morning. On a Facebook statement in the past as well, you also stated you went back to sleep at 3 in the morning. However, your 2024 police interview of June, you stated you woke up at 2:42 and then you went back to sleep at around 3:24. That's 24 minutes later compared to what you actually said in the Partisan True Crime interview. A 24-minute time difference. Did you go to sleep at 3 in the morning, Or did you go to sleep at 3:24 in the morning? There is a big difference. Because the other slight thing to acknowledge, you, Kaden, in Parts in True Crime, said at 2:42 when woken up by Alicia's call, you noticed that Noah was in the room playing beer pong with Jack and Jasmine. But in your police interview, you said at 3:24 when looking around, you assumed that Noah was there, but you didn't actually see him. So what happened in between that 24-minute time difference, if not longer? And of course, the later you go back to sleep, the closer it is to the time of when Noah walked away. 3:24 going to sleep. 3:30 when Noah actually walked out the front door. And that argument with Avery as well, is like calling a fat beep. The closer it is to when you fall to sleep as when events occur, the more likely you may have heard or seen something. If you fell asleep earlier on and didn't wake up till later, yeah, you're not going to know. That's all fine. But there are clear discrepancies. They've not been cleared up. You say there's nothing to clear up and you've been consistent. That's categorically incorrect. There is hard evidence to show it. I've documented it on my channel. Clearly, we've got a problem, and it's unfortunate. Donna Bond, Kathy Bingham should have a Lawson remove point blank. What that means. Tim Daniel, Kaden can just clear up if you called your mom on the way home. Did you do that? And Kaden Pressy's response to Tim's question about, Kaden, can you clear it up? Did you call your mom on the way home? Because Alicia says you did. Did you, Kaden? And Kaden's response is, there's nothing to clear up. That does not answer the question. Has Kaden Pressy been indoctrinated? And I don't mean it as a fact. Has Kaden Pressy been indoctrinated by Justin Roy? Because this style of deflection and working around, bending around questions and not answering them is something what Justin Roy has done as well. It's just very unfortunate to see. Brenda, I've said it once, I'll say it again. Alicia cannot testify for Kaden. Okay. Sadie, yes. Tim, or did he not want to worry her and didn't tell his parents till he got home at 8:10? Fair enough. Beauty, there are in fact a lot of things that are unclear because of your mum and others' recollections. License, I meant damn phone doesn't listen to what I'm yelling at. Oh God. Maybe talking a frog's voice, it might translate better. Kaden Pressy, like I said, y'all know who I am, and if you've got shit to talk, and we can meet and you can talk your shit face to face. Why? What would that lead to? A fight? Tammy, after posting stuff all night at the party house, it all stopped at 3:14 until 3:41. Wonder why? Well, what was the last thing to be posted at 3:14 then? What exactly? And to say it all stopped between 3:14 or 3:15 to 3:41, 3:41 being that snap by Jasmine Millan to say Noah's missing. Well, if there's shower footage, if there's any footage of the teabagging, any footage of other bits and bobs in between it, and it's just not been released public, does need to be acknowledged to some extent, right? Book is the best. That's what Noah Deserves the Truth says. Also, Tammy, no, it did not. You have not seen all the snaps. Fair enough, but they've not been released publicly either, so we can only work with what you've got. Did you incur another lie? Brooke to Kaden, answer the questions against your lies. Kaden Pressy, y'all have turned Noah's death into a mockery. Y'all will not see me on here again. That's unfortunate. What's a mockery, Andrea says, is your mom constantly lying. And that appears to be it for the screenshots there. So with that all being said, supposedly Kaden Pressy will never return back again, as in, I guess, upon the channel or more so the live chat, but you could still be listening in, watching in the background like how other people do, because, you know, people may make the choice to do that. Is there anything different that Kaden Pressy could have done to make things better, to better himself? Absolutely. That along the way, even if he believes there's no discrepancies and he's been consistent, whilst the general public have seen something different, as in like one interview compared to a different interview, and there's clear discrepancies, or at least of how it's worded and certain times as well. It's all documented on my channel, all evidence, all there, and Map Project as well. And the interviews, when you look at the hard stuff yourself and compare and contrast, it's all there. But besides that, if at any point people have asked questions, not forceful, no insults, no bad blood before that, no insults beforehand, and you're just asking for the very first time, asking Kaden, what's the deal with this and that, could you clear it up? Well, Kaden hasn't always answered. We saw that today, we've seen it in the past. There might have been some times where I may have asked a question, Kaden did not respond back whatsoever, but I sense that he saw it, but he didn't want to answer it. Did I push him? No. Did I force an answer? No. I just felt disappointed inside, and that was it. There was a couple of times, once or twice, maybe in the same video, where I asked Kaden Pressy in the live chat, is this the back road that you took when, you know, working around the blocked off highway? Did you take a right here, then a left, then a left, and then a right? And then Kaden said, yes, that's correct. Simple communication. I received an answer from Kaden. That's good. That helps. The other question I asked was, Kaden Pressy, in one interview, you mentioned in Partners in True Crime, Renee Milan arrived at the house. That's the only name you mentioned. In the police interview, you mentioned it as Renee, her husband, Stephanie returning back, and Stephanie's boyfriend returning back to the party. Which one's correct? Was it just Renee, or was it Renee, the whole family and daughter? And Kaden Pressy responded, oh yeah, all of them. Renee, husband, Stephanie, Stephanie's boyfriend. And I asked that question to Kaden at the time because one interview said one name, the other interview mentioned many names. And it's trying to work out which one's correct because there is a discrepancy. And ever since a few months now, Kaden cleared it up. If only that could happen with many other things. But it hasn't. And there might have been sometimes when I did ask other questions, which might have been of other topics too, and they might have not been answered, which not much more I can do about that. As for what happens next, who knows? Is there anything different other people could have done when asking Kaden Pressy questions? To just bite your tongue at times for the sake of yourself and learning about the case, even if you might get frustrated with someone like Kaden. For Kaden Pressy, what's the best thing he could have done is to answer people's questions. And it doesn't have to be as in means of owing people like the general public, because maybe Kaden doesn't have to owe anyone an answer. But what he does owe is himself peace of mind and a form of tranquility away from all the questions and people asking and presence. Of course, if you put yourself out there in the first place, you're going to make yourself a bit of a marked individual, and depending what you say from there on then and how active you are, and if you do slip up at times or make the odd mistake or change your language and wording, people may be focusing in, and if you don't answer at times, it might intensify people's interest and wanting to know certain truths, wanting to clear up certain things. If Kaden Pressy answered people's questions, or some of them at least, like how Kaden Pressy answered mine, more so with like the Renee Milan situation as who was present at the house, who returned, who arrived. Was it all of them? Was it one person? Kaden answered, it was resolved, good. Did you take the back route? Was this the correct way? Yes, good. If Kaden was able to do that with other questions, it would have cleared it up, it would have eased things and settled it. And it would have benefited Kaden most of all, so then you wouldn't have to deal with constant questions. You wouldn't have to deal with constant frustration from people. But you can understand it from the outer perspective of the general public that want to know and maybe a bit passionate and not getting answers, and it's not helping, it's just not really going anywhere. And all it takes is one simple response and it can go a long way. And then, of course, for the questions which are too sensitive or can't be answered because of maybe legal reasons, if Kaden was able to say, I'm not allowed or not able to answer that, or I don't want to talk about that, even that level of acknowledgement would be good enough, but it just hasn't happened. So things could have been done differently with time. It's too late now in certain aspects. It is what it is. We'll see what happens next. There are still analysis and projects and map stuff that can be done in original type of videos, and I've still got a hold of some previous screenshots to refer back to because they do stand out and they are somewhat shocking. So be on the lookout for that. As said, if you want to support the channel, there is a PayPal link down below, and the full playlist is up there if you want to catch up on videos you've missed out on. Hopefully you found this video interesting. If you want to hit the thumbs up and share the video, that'd be much appreciated. My name's Wyatt Raff. I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.